we probably need to go to counseling on parenting soon.
All right, you're serious?
Yes. Welcome to the Blake and Krista Show. This is the first episode of 2022. We rolled in the new year. What was that? Was it yesterday? Was that the second? First? Anyway, rolled in the new year.
Really, right now, you don't even know. I don't know what month it is, what year it is. I believe it's January 3rd, but it could be December 28th.
Is that our kids are still out of school, and they have been out of school for a long time.
Yeah. So today's show, we're going to be talking about marriage struggles or lack thereof.
Lack thereof struggles?
Yeah, we don't have many struggles.
Oh.
Well, here we go. But we're going to talk about marriage struggles. I literally had this topic on my mind because I watch other marriages. If you're around us and you're married, I'm watching your marriage. I do. There's just something about that, especially being in ministry as much as we are. I've taken little nuggets of wisdom. I feel like the Lord has spoken to me over the course of time, watching other married couples do ministry and what their marriage looks like. And I think we can learn from each other on what not to do, some things of what to do. So I got online and I pulled up these marriage struggle blogs and forums and all this, and I pulled 10 things that mainly make married couples struggle, or they eliminate marriages. People get divorced based off of these things. Mm-hmm. And so I want us to do like our perspective on this.
Talk through each.
Yeah, and where we are. So today's topic is going to be marriage struggles, or just married couples in general. Probably things that we wish we would have known, and things that we know now.
And things that sounds like most people go through in marriage.
Yeah, so
first and foremost, before we get started.
Okay.
So we asked our friend here, who is not married. We said, "What's the one thing you would want to know?" And he said, "How do you know?
How do you know you have found the one?
You have found the one."
Yeah, that's a loaded question. Let me tell you. So for us, it's not cheesy. It is cheesy, but it's not. I always knew that Krista was, I guess you could say, the one.
Why?
Well, that's a good question. So the first time I laid eyes on her was at a junior varsity football game. And it kind of started as a bet. This is what happened. We walked across the field to the other team, the other high school sideline, and she was a cheerleader for the opposing team. And I remember standing there and I was watching the cheerleaders. You know, we were 15, 16 years old. It's just what those boys did. And we were standing like right in front of them. So how awkward was that? But I remember a buddy of mine, I asked about this specific girl, which happened to be her. And I said, who is that? You know, and he said, that's Krista Klump. And I remember saying something along the lines like, well, she's really pretty, or I probably didn't say that. You know, I'm 15 and I'm not saved, so I probably said a lot more. And then he said, oh, well, she's dating so-and-so, and you can forget that, or you can hang it up, like as if I couldn't, get to you or whatever. And so I went home that night, and this was when America Online was the main social AOL, the whole dial-up thing.
Dial it up.
And I found her on there, and we started talking. But I just, we dated. We were high school sweethearts for a couple years, and I've never connected with another girl the way I've connected with you, right? And there was, even when we got back together, 5 years ago. It was like almost like going home. It was like finally the wondering, who is my wife going to be, is over with. If this works out, then it's over with. So, for me, how do you know that they're the one? It just kind of fell into place. It was just kind of, the Lord made it real easy.
There's probably more like practical things along the way that you realize within me and in yourself, and how that worked together, that really makes the one. And my first thought that came to mind when you asked that question is, it's not about the lovey-dovey, when everything feels good, that they're the one. It's recognizing certain things in that person's life on how they deal with the struggles. Like, so knowing that you can love them for the rest of your life, but that you can struggle with them for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I just think that's the biggest part, because you're likely going to go through more struggles than you do happy times, or even happy times. Like, how would you define those as individuals and then together? So like this list is like, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah. Another thing, I think that person's personality has a lot to do with it. Like, I know for us, how do you know you found the one? Like, I don't want to say you're gonna have to date around to figure it out, but there's just some components that I look at. Like, is that person compassionate?
Yeah.
Obviously, are they a Christian?
Yeah.
Do they have the same beliefs? And we're going to get into some of those. But like, I agree with you. That person's got to be able to fight with you through some stuff, and they also got to be able to do like a self-evaluation.
A lot of self-awareness.
When the struggles hit, they have to not just kind of be like, well, if he don't get this or she don't get this, like, I'm watching for this, and if this doesn't happen, then I'm gone. They have to be able to look at themselves too and say, like, am I being selfish here? Am I being kind of narcissist here?
Yeah.
Are there some areas in my life I need to work on? Because if you truly love that person, you'll do that. So
yeah.
It's not going to always fall into place.
No. And the first thing, so how does that person struggle? How do they deal with hard times? Like, that's going to be a big determinant of, how do you know if someone's the one that you could, like, the one to live with for the rest of your life? And then number two, that I think is very important, is that you have to have a very similar sense of humor.
Yeah.
If you do not have the same sense of humor and you can't laugh through all your struggles in the right ways, or like, it's not going to work. Like, I've been in relationships before where I realized that we did not have the same sense of humor, and like, it's a struggle.
Yeah, we could tell some stories.
Yeah,
but
you
we're
just
not.
don't have, but we're not. Anyway, so I think sense of humor is huge, because Blake and I can be going into like deep, like, argument, and some things that need to be. This isn't like humor to avoid at all. This is like where you can literally like just enjoy life even in the worst times, because you can make light of
And then the humor brings you out of it.
Yeah.
This is coming to my mind, then we'll get into the list. But like the other morning, it was January 1st, and I walked up behind Krista I hadn't got up yet. I actually slept in on New Year's Day to like probably 7:30.
Yeah.
That's sleeping in to me. And I walked up behind her in the kitchen, and she has this jug. It's like 2 liters or a gallon of water.
It's like 64 ounces.
And it has these little sayings on the side of it, like, you can do it. Keep drinking. You're almost there. Stand up and stretch. Like, you have to drink this whole thing, and it's like the desired amount of water that the body's supposed to intake.
Yeah, it's the amount of water we're supposed to have in a day.
But as you're struggling to get through it, it's got like these little sayings. So like, your straw's in it, and you're looking down, and it's like halfway there. Whew. And it's encouraging you. And I walked up behind her, and she was filling it up. And I got my robe on, I just got out of bed. And I leaned over her shoulder, and she was filling this thing, and I was like, oh yeah, it's got to be the first. Because on the first of each month, she goes through like this 72-hour thing with this jug, where like, this is the month that I drink the water that I'm supposed to. This is the turn. This is it. And so obviously it was January 1st. But little stuff like that, to where,
And like, I can allow, like, so obviously with the humor, I have trust in Blake. Like, we don't have a history of like him being mean on joking or like making fun of. It's like all in, like, I know his heart and his good. So things like that are funny. So if you're hearing this and you're like, you're a spouse, you're the funny one, and the other doesn't take it that way. Well, you got to think, like, what kind of trust do you have with each other too?
Yeah.
Like, I trust Blake. I'm not offended by anything Blake says, as I know is his heart towards me. He would never try to hurt my feelings. But anyway.
Yeah, big trust issues are a big thing. Like, I've always been appalled at like couples who, like, if you're just dating, and you've been dating for a couple weeks, maybe even a couple months, I get it. But there's certain times where you pass boundaries of trust. Big things are like, this is just what's coming to mind, like cell phone passwords. Like, I could care less. Like, here you go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Run through this thing. Like, here, my phone's almost dead. Let me have your phone. I'm going to Walmart. There are couples who, now, if you're dating and you're not living together or whatever, but like even married couples we've been around, where like I've seen the husband pass the cell phone to the wife, and she has to go, what's your password? And I'm going, oh gosh, Like they're what? You know? So trust issues are a big thing with us. Like, and I think, you know, we're getting into the list a little bit, so I'll pull back.
Okay.
But that is a big thing. So anyway, babe, number one.
All right, struggles. There are 10. There are 10 struggles, and we're going to go through these pretty quick because if not, we'll take an entire day. All right, ready?
Yes.
Number 1, communication issues.
Yeah. So our little bulletin point right there says putting up with problems rather than trying to fix them.
So that's putting up with, okay. So that is.
Do we suppress our problems? Like, do we go days without saying anything?
Oh, yeah.
We do? This is going to be good for us.
Like you just told me last night that the kids go to the cabinet and to the fridge to eat.
Hold on, babe.
All day long. No.
Hold on. Don't try to get.
Listen.
Look, that's number 6.
No. You said that they go to, and I said, well, I haven't thought about that being something that they do all day long. It doesn't bother me. I think they're hungry. They're growing kids. And you go, you haven't seen that they do that? I was sure you saw the same thing that I saw. And I said, no. And if that bothered you so bad, why didn't you just tell me?
And I did say I've seen it for months.
Yeah. And you just assumed that I knew.
Well, because I kind of thought.
That's not communicating. Okay. You kind of thought. You didn't communicate that. And nor in a proper way. You can't be like, you can't look at them and go, have you not noticed how they're getting food out all the time? Instead, you should be like, hey, honey, I realize that, you know, the kids are home all day long and they're eating all day long. Like, do you think that's good? Do we think that, you know, so it's the delivery. Okay.
Well, I thought surely you have noticed and you're dealing with it internally in some other way, and that I'm a dictator father if I say anything. So I'm not going to say anything. But then it hit a point last night where we had just sat down.
It sounds like you don't say anything rather than fixing it. Okay.
We had just sat down as a nice little family and had dinner. Mm-hmm. They ate half of a piece of pizza. Then we called them to dinner. Then they both get up from their plates. Mm-hmm. You know, and then they run down the hallway, and then 10 minutes later, they're back in the refrigerator and in the cabinet trying to get applesauce and blueberries. Mm-hmm. And I was like, hold on, this is a problem. So it is. I mean, I guess we do. But it also, when our problems like that come to a head.
It's when Blake's been home too long with nothing to do. And he's bored out of his mind that he's now looking at everything and scrutinizing everything that's happening with our kids.
But I think we navigate that well, too.
We do.
And our outlet is to the Lord. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, like if you even made the comment, like, babe, if you just need to drive into town, just go on a ride or something. And I was like, no, I'm not just going to go on a ride. Like, I'm going to pace the floor and talk to the Lord about it. But that's one thing, too, that, you know, when our problems do come up like that, I think the beautiful part is we're both self-aware enough, or I try to be at least self-aware enough, and I know you are because you're very considerate of where I'm at, and I try to be considerate of where you are. And the voice of the Lord is what brings us both back. Yeah. I remember we got into an argument one time. This was probably the worst argument we've had, and I'm just going to stop it right there. And I called Pastor, and I remember the first thing he said to me on the phone after I just laid out, you know, my defense, and he was like, "What do you see?"
I don't even remember what this was about, but.
And I was like, and I knew he was asking me like it was a spiritual thing. Like, what do you see? Like, do you see you? Do you see her? Do you see where this come from? Mm-hmm. And after I calmed down, I was like, yeah, you know, here it is. I was prideful. I think she has some things that she's bringing from like the past marriage or whatever. But we were able, I'll never forget that. I was able to like self-evaluate in that moment, and which always brings it back. Yeah. So when our problems come up and we have to address them, I think we're self-aware enough, and we ask the Lord in that moment, show me.
Yeah. And I think in communication too, this is me just because of my profession and what I've done for work is a lot about delivery, you know.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are, like what you do, how much you love, how much you don't love. If you want reconciliation of any sort of an argument, like your delivery of it is so important.
Yeah.
You're not going to get anywhere with full-blown arguments, you know, like yelling and screaming. You know, you might feel better in that moment because you got some anger out, but like you're really not going to get any resolution.
Yeah, and then our kids, they can tell too when our voice changes. Mm-hmm. Like 7 will walk up to me and say, "Daddy, are you happy?" Like in that moment, she's picking up.
Oh yeah. You
know, and that breaks my heart always. So, and then the communication issues. Can we listen to each other's complaints? I think we addressed that. We do.
Yeah, I think we do that pretty good. You know, Blake will say, I want to talk to you, sit down. Or I'll say, you know, I've been thinking, here's some things in my mind. Don't say anything until I get done saying it.
Yeah.
But,
And then a lot of times too, when I tell you, hey, babe, I want to talk, let's sit down, it's just a fleeting idea. You probably realize that. Like,
I write you letters, or I write you notes, Donna. I write you notes about how I'm thinking or feeling, and then you read them.
when it gets bad,
Yeah.
when it gets to a point where you feel like you're not getting through to me, you'll write a letter.
A note.
Yeah, and it always comes in text too, and it always like freaks me out because I'm like, oh gosh, because you're like, I'm just gonna say this because I don't have an opportunity to say it when we were talking, but this is how I feel, and I'm just like, oh gosh, and I got to pull over or mope back in the house like a hit dog because I'm just worthless.
Well, you'll call me. You'll call me, but I think it's you're tender about it. But you feel in that moment. For me, you don't take that personal. A lot of people can take that personal. They can get prideful.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that you don't do, which I'm very thankful for. Okay.
So number two, ignoring boundaries, trying to change one another on how they. Try to change one another on how they dress, their fundamental beliefs, etc. No, for us. Only thing is, like, let's just address the first one, how we dress. You dress very modest. I think, you know, there's sometimes you put on something and you go, you know, is this too much? Like if it's an evening gown or something.
Well, now, I mean, I'm a mother too. Like, I don't want to be like.
Yeah. But we don't try to dictate how each other dresses.
No.
Like,
I don't care what you wear.
there's sometimes you let me out of the house, though, and I go back and watch videos or somebody took a picture, and I'm like, why'd you let me wear that? One time in particular, we had like some family photos, and I was in this mode where I had like this full beard and like the long hair. And I don't know what I was trying to do in that season.
All right. Any other boundary? I mean, I guess ignoring boundaries, I think that, I don't know what this was talking about, but is that like, what other boundary? Ignoring boundaries with other people?
Well, I think boundaries, maybe family boundaries.
I don't know. We're confused with that one, so we're going to move on.
Yeah.
To number 3, emotional and sexual infidelity. Okay, that's obvious that would be a struggle.
Yeah.
But I like this emotional and, this says emotional of.
Or
Okay.
sexual infidelity.
So I do like this. I like the emotional because even if there's not any physical, for people, the emotional side is just as harmful and hurtful.
Yeah. We had a moment, what was this, 2 nights ago, where I said to you, like, the routine with the kids. I was like, babe, we need to sit together more because in the evenings, you know, we're trying to get the kids to wind down, and so we'll watch a movie with them. Mm-hmm. But it always ends up being Krista in one room with Micah, or 7, and then me in one room with Micah. And then by the time they go to bed, we're so tired that we just kind of float to the bed or, you know, fall asleep on the couch and have to get up. And I noticed, I was like, you know what? They're going to be grown one day, and then we're going to be so used to spending our evenings apart. You know, like they're going to be 6 or 7 years old or whatever, and we're going to be done this so long that it's going to be normal to us that we don't spend our evenings together, or that we don't. We're not together in the evenings, and that's one of the things where like becoming emotionally distant can lead to just that part of your marriage. You know, we have marriages that are close to us where it's like that. Mm-hmm. They're just emotionally distant.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it can lead. I'm sure some marriages go through things like adultery or whatever from that place, but I don't want us to ever be like that. So I'm aware of that.
And I think, you know, from the emotional side, like this says infidelity. So obviously if there's infidelity, there's issues. But just between a lack of emotional intimacy, you know, physical, that's obviously important, but even just the emotional side of that too. So like, you know, like you said, sitting down with each other and just, you know, having genuine, caring conversation around things that are not of your kids or of, you know, I don't know, just something about that, just looking at each other and talking about the things we care about, love. Anyway.
And you have to make that point, I think. So couples that are watching this or listening, you have to set aside a time to spend time with your spouse. Yeah. Like we do it in the mornings, we get up and read scripture or whatever and pray. But then outside of that, you know, if you look at couples that are not doing that, I think that marriage is suffering.
Yeah, and Blake you're really good at making sure we take time for each other. So there's a bullet point on here that says working too much. Like I can definitely get into that. Like get up, get things going, go to work. Okay, now home, get all the like, and then once everything's done, then we can have time for each other. You
But
know,
we're so tired.
But we're so tired. But you're good at like, one, you're really good at stopping me and hugging me, you know, and coming in and just realizing like, you just need a hug, you know, and like.
Are you crying right now?
Yeah. Because it's you know, it's important. Like I realized that if I didn't have you to do that, I wouldn't naturally do it until I just become an emotional,
Yeah.
you know, until it just explodes. But like, I just think of how many women I know, you know, that all they want is for their spouse, significant other, just to stop and hug them. You know, not for any other reason, but just because they love them and they just want them to feel that, or holding hands. Like, I remember you would hold my hand somewhere. I can't remember where we were. And like, I remember this was like early on in our relationship. And I remember feeling like, is this awkward for the people that are with me? Like it's something silly like that just because I wasn't used to it.
Because it's not the normal.
It's not the norm. And you're just sweet and like, you're just gentle. Like and even if you're a woman that isn't someone who needs the emotional, or you don't think you do, we are spiritual beings, emotional beings full of love that, you know, you might not show that because you didn't have it, or you might have cut it off at some point in your life. But anyway, I know that that's something big that if I talk to any of my friends, my family members, the women that you know, and this goes for men too, but because I talk to more women, is just the men just to be able to just take that second. And I mean, just you can't do it too much. You just can't.
It can't be, yeah.
And so anyway, the hand holding, the checking in. How are you? You do that? How are you? Are you okay? Are you doing? You know, you always ask me. I'm like, I'm fine. You know, or sometimes I am not feeling good, and I'll still say I'm fine because I don't want you to talk to me about it at the moment, or you know. But you're just so aware of the emotional side.
Well,
I think it's important.
I'm aware of your emotional strength.
Yeah.
And I'm also aware of my how I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I always have something going on. And so it's almost like as I'm running, I look back and go, oh, hold on, how is Krista doing?
Yeah.
Like, is she okay? Like, am I putting her through too much? You know, and too much is like ministry, you know, or ideas or things.
Yeah.
You know, and the working too much, the way I'm aware of you is because I remember this last summer working so much that I would come home and I'd be so exhausted. And I remember one night in particular, I was sitting on the couch and you were washing dishes. And the Lord said, go hug your wife, go kiss her. And it convicted me because he had to remind me. Like he had to say, hey, this is a point where she needs that, go do it. Where in times past, I was energized enough and I wasn't working so hard that he didn't have to tell me that.
Yeah.
And then it convicted me. I was like, gosh, I don't want the Lord to have to remind me to go be affectionate towards my wife. And so working too much, you know, that's why I know we're on a path to merge together to where we're doing whatever it is, but we're doing it together.
Yeah.
You know, versus you doing one thing and me doing the other. But yeah, so you know, it goes back to just being self-aware of where you are emotional and where I am as far as in what I have going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love you. So number 4 would be fighting about money, agreeing on how we handle finances. That's not an option or not an issue. It might be an issue for some of you listening. I'll just say this: when you got married, you became one flesh. So any pride there has to go away. Like, this is my money, it's not your money. Also, there has to be wisdom. If one of the spouse makes more than the other, you know, Krista, you make more than I do, and so I have to use wisdom on spending. I can't just go, well, there's this in the bank, or we have this saved up, let's just do this. I can't just call the shots. So fighting about money, if you're not spending frivolously, like I'll go spend, I'll go buy a pair of Jordans and I'm like, can I do this? Can we do this? And it's like, what, once a year? That's probably the extent. We don't shop.
Yeah.
If we do, it's like discount stuff. We spend most of our money on, and we tithe a lot.
Yeah. I think just overall getting on the same page with your goals of finances is most important. So like, I mean, You know a certain amount of money that's coming into your household. You know what your budget is for that. You agree on what that budget is, so that it doesn't make it an argument. Like if one has an idea of like, oh, really want to go to the beach this weekend, well, then you both look at the finances and go, can we make that decision together? Because I know sometimes like I'm kind of I'm the spreadsheet person. Blake can see and has access to everything, but like, he'll come and say, based, because he knows I have the full plan and we've talked about it, but he might not remember it like I do. But I told him one time, I was like, I don't like you coming and asking me, can we do this? Because it makes me feel like I'm either the good, like.
It's really because I have no clue most of the time what's in the bank.
Well, you can
and I don't
see
take
it.
the time to go look at it. I'm just like, hey, how many fly miles do we have? Can we go to Montana?
Yeah. Right. But what I mean is like, I don't like the whole, this is why I say getting more on the same page. And Blake and I are working on that, like on even getting more and more on the same page. Like him just saying he doesn't know what's in the bank account is mind blowing to me because he has the app on his phone that I know he opens all the time.
I don't look at Wells Fargo that much.
Anyway, so he has access to it. Being on the same page, but so that I don't have to be like the bearer of bad news or good. Like, yes, we can go, or no, we can't. Like that's like a meme. And you might not think of it like that. I'm just sharing like how that feels when you say, can we do that? I'm like, well, you go look it up. And then you go figure it out based on what we said our goals are. And you go tell me based on what's in the bank, is that possible?
Yeah, stand up, Blake. All right, number 5, selfishness. Marriage is give and take. I think we hit on that. It definitely is. I have a good friend that told me that him and his wife didn't actually become one until years into their marriage, and that always stuck out to me. So, yeah, it is. It's definitely a journey. It's a give and take. Marriage is work.
Well, it's two people with two completely different life experiences coming together to live as if there's one life experience now.
Yeah,
and that's.
And I'm gonna say this, and we'll move on with that. If
I'm not ready to move on from the selfishness convo.
Well, I want to get to the part where selfishness, your vision, the last one, at the expense of your family. Mm-hmm. I like that one. I want to talk about that ministry related. I want to know, are a lot of ministers' wives happy? Wow. I really would. I'd love to have, you can't do that because it may shake your whole marriage if you just said, no, I'm not happy, matter of fact. But I'm curious to that because I think, I'm the spiritual leader of the house and I have a vision for us to serve the Lord regionally and internationally, and whatever doors he opens up. But also, the Lord gave me a word that, as you go, I go. Mm-hmm. Like I can't run out there in a vision and say, this is what we're going to do and have you just kind of sit back and, okay, I don't want you to live your life like that. Yeah. I want you to take heed to what I say, but also you're the calibrating voice in my life. And so I watch, I'm just going to say, let's say even entrepreneurs or ministers, like is the vision that you have, is it coming at the expense of your family? Mm-hmm. I watched a guy one time and he was talking about how he was a traveling minister and he had a large itinerary and every month he was somewhere and he came home from doing like this conference somewhere and his wife was packed. She had packed her bags and she was going out of town for a little while and it was because one of his daughters said, "Mommy, why does Daddy love those people more than he loves us?" And he was a minister, and he was doing he was answering the call of God or whatever, but I've always thought about that. I don't want my vision to ever come at the expense of lack of time or affection towards you or Seven or Micah. And I think you can throw that into any category. Entrepreneurs, guys who are highly motivated, achiever type thing. Even women, you can't leave your family behind. As you go, they go. Yeah. If you do run out and try to leave them behind because you're answering the call of God or you got a vision you're running for your life, you're going to have to backtrack. The Lord's going to require that you backtrack somewhere down the road. So don't do that. He's going to require that you go back and make it right with your family. So just spare yourself the time and don't do that.
Yeah, when I think of selfishness, I think of expectations. What are my expectations of even a day? Not even just your life, but of a day.
Yeah.
and how that's going to go. And if it doesn't go exactly like I plan, like, then how does that, affect how I feel and act towards others? And like, like I like to take naps, and,
Yeah.
Blake might think that's selfish, but I think he's selfish if he like doesn't cater to my need,
Only time
need for nap taking.
only time I think your naps are selfish is when I'm being selfish. Honestly, it's just when I had a plan to do something around that time, and you're like, I'm going to take a nap, and I'm like, oh gosh, we still have we still have a kid up. I got to get this boy to sleep so I can do what I want to do. Only time let's just set the record straight. If I ever talk about your naps, I'm being selfish. So don't even pay attention to me.
Okay, but I like to be encouraged
To go nap.
in my naps.
Oh,
I
honey.
enjoy them more when you
Babe, I just want
encourage
to tell
me.
you right now, I just declare over you that your nap is going to be glorious.
Yeah, see, they're so
And
much
you lay
better.
down. I want you to lay down and I want you to hit that pillow. And I hope you get a dream from the Lord.
Yes,
And you just sleep.
I actually just want to not dream at all. I just want
drool
no thinking.
and just bad breath and all that. I want you to wake up like, man, and then come get the kids and let me run circles in the yard and do what I want to do.
Yeah, see, so I want you to encourage my nap, not like,
from here on out, you will be encouraged.
yeah, like I like for you to like, I love it when you come in there and turn the blinds and then shut the curtains. Like I really feel like you're encouraging it and supporting it.
I'm probably like, if I could just help her get to sleep faster, she'll wake up faster. All right, value differences, number 6, and we'll go through these for the sake of time. Children and parenting differences. It's not a big one for us, but we do clash on that one. I'm more of I think the kids need to sit down and write a book, and they're 3 and 4 years old.
Truthfully, I think we're uncovering more of our differences as they get older. Because I don't think you really know what you'll insist on or want, So I think we are moving into knowing and uncovering more of our differences or like what we think about parenting as the kids get older. Because, people are like, well, you need to be on the same page when you get married on how you want to raise your kids. I don't think you really know all of that until you get into it.
Personality has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I thought I would probably be more of the, order stickler. But, between me and you are definitely the, like, laying it down. You're not getting around, the rules or the routine or the time. At least you try to do that.
Yeah. And then I try not to be so that as well. I try to be very,
yeah. I'm just saying, between you and I, if one had to be more of the
disciplinarian.
The disciplinarian.
Yeah.
But I know I agree with discipline. It's just the things that I think you worry about. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to like value differences, I think our values are the same but I think you worry more about certain things for our kids that I just don't worry about in that way because I think they're going to work themselves out. So like we probably need to go to counseling on parenting soon.
All right, you're serious?
Yes. Only because we don't know what we don't know. Because all we have to do, we sit there in the kitchen and we go, is it bad? Okay, do you not realize it's bad that kids go get food all the time? Well, I don't know. Is it bad or not? We're just going off of a thought.
No, yeah, you don't need a counselor for that. I'm telling you.
You see? You don't know that though. But point being, like, I think our values are the same, but in the sense of like what is to be expected. I'm the type of person that like if I know I can expect my kids to act a certain way until a certain age, and then that's where there's certain things I should be doing, like it's easier to deal with. I think that's with anything in life. Like I think if you knew that your kids weren't the one and all other kids in the world that cry all the time or like whine and want stuff, you'd be a little more like less stressed
I would
about
like to have my kids like in a room with a bunch of other kids, parents. I need to see how other kids their age are.
Okay, well, you can go to the next birthday parties because I've been to all of them, and you can go watch how all the kids do.
I've been to a few of them.
I can sign you
Don't
up.
throw me under the bus like I don't go to birthday parties here.
Well, at least you can by yourself, so you can pay attention.
All right, and then let's go to. I think we hit on just the different stages. Boredom is, you can throw that out the window. I mean, I get bored sometimes, but it's not like it affects our marriage. I get bored here. Stuck in the house. So that we're not going to talk about that one.
I mean, everybody gets bored.
The jealousy thing. It happens in marriages. People get jealous. I just don't see how. I just don't have time to be worried about Buddy over there in his Columbia hat or something. You know, I don't know. I just ain't got time for nobody.
Well, it's
trying
also
to holler.
the trust you have, like I know that if you were talking to some woman that you're not feeling that way, I don't care how but it's also in your discernment on making sure that that's not perceived that way by me, by her, by anyone else.
And I almost said, we're as Christians, we shouldn't even be worried about that. But Christian marriages fail a lot. There's infidelity, adultery, all these things. Yeah, I think discernment. If you have, But you also don't give okay, so I could see, and here's an example. Let's say I think I'm not getting adult conversation enough, and you're not sitting with me and really listening and talking to me, but you happen to have a deep conversation with a lady that's going through something. Like, some people could probably get jealous of that. But I'm secure. It all stems from like the security.
Heart of the relationship. I think jealousy does. That then makes it go, okay, you're going to give attention to other things. It doesn't have to be woman. Even it could be ministry. I could be jealous of the ministry that
I do think if there's a jealousy issue in a marriage, if there was something that fractured that trust, like if one of them cheated, or there was something that happened, I know it's a hard uphill climb to get back to that place, so that seed is there. I think couples are jealous if there's something like that that's happened. Oh, yeah. And I can totally see that.
Then that makes all of this 10 times harder.
Yeah. And so the last thing, and then we'll close this one up. What is the biggest struggle for us? Do we have one? Have we already addressed it? What is the biggest struggle?
I mean,
I guess we don't have one.
Well, I think we kind of
hit on all of them.
It's a little bit in between, like balancing expectations of what we desire, on things to do, and like
where we're going, and the time frame, and what we're doing things in our life.
More in the moment struggles. Like, I don't think it's like bigger picture struggles. I think it's more in the moment, and
basically we got it all together.
No, we don't.
Basically,
I'm trying to think about how to say
Krista
this
said
correctly.
That we need to go to marriage counseling, but I am the marriage counselor. So basically, if you're struggling and you need some answers, you just message us. Message me. Just stop. See how I do this. Comment though. I want to know, like, questions. Ask. You didn't hit on this, or even message and say, hey, we've dealt with this before. You don't have to put it out there publicly. What would you say about this? Because marriages work, I do want to say that, but it's also, like Krista was just saying, the heart posture, the security of you as an individual, and then the love. Love's got to be the main thing, and the Lord has to be that, the 3-chord band is not easily broken. The Lord has to be the centerpiece. So anyway, that's our show on marriage struggles, and we'll see y'all in a couple days.
I didn't say we need marriage counseling. I said we needed parenting counseling.
Parenting, that's right, parenting.
Okay. All right, thanks.